Welcome everybody to our November work session. We're going to get started and let Dr. Neal take us through it.
Okay, it's a great day in Trussville City Schools. Welcome to our work session. Our weekly numbers come in on Tuesday afternoon, and our COVID update is that our positive cases this week are 2. So the dashboard will show 2 cases this week from 1 last week, and our quick link on our website that Mr. Gaston takes care of for us, it will show 2.
So the news is we had 100% increase.
Yes, we got 100%. Thank you, Professor Sim. I appreciate that. So I think in your packet you have the chart. I don't know if April can pull it up there or not, but we have our 13 weeks of school showing, and I have prepared the chart. And today we learned about week 14, and it will show 2. So there it is. That's our graph in actual reported cases. And once again, we don't test for COVID in our schools. We rely on parent reports. So these are the actual reports for the year. And it will show 2 in week 14. So any questions about that?
Our number, that number includes, I'm not asking this week in particular, but it includes if you have staff or teachers in addition to students, right?
It is. That's a great question. It's all of our students, totaling almost 5,000, and all of our faculty and staff, bus drivers, lunchroom staff, everybody included on the employee roster, which would be another 541 people.
Okay.
So round that roughly to 5,500. And you have you can get your percentages for the year if you want to look at it that way. So we're doing, and there are surges in other states and other parts of Alabama as well. So it's not over yet, but certainly we're doing very well. And we hope there's not a surge here. And we're coming up on Thanksgiving and Christmas where people will come to visit from out of state and from other places. And so we hope that doesn't impact us in a negative way. So that's where we are today. That's the first thing I wanted to share with the board. Coming off of our retreat, we talked about visits from the board to the schools, and Mr. Gaston has developed a master calendar for board members to visit schools anytime they're available. This calendar will go to me and to board members, and the principals have cordially invited all of us to come to their school for any or all of these events that will be shown on the master calendar. So I'll turn it over to Jason Gaston, who can talk to you about the link and what that looks like so far.
All righty, so Ms. Chamberlain has the image here on the Google slide. You can see that's just a screenshot, and if she were to click on it, it hyperlinks up to the live calendar, which is just an out-facing Google Calendar. So we have the Google ecosystem, and then we use Microsoft as well. But this is a very collaborative workspace. So as Dr. Neal mentioned, all schools would have point people, and most of the schools in here have already sent me their names. Those point people would populate events on the calendar, and as you can see, if it's athletics, that goes first. If it's district, that goes first. If it's Magnolia, that goes first. You can see right away where's the choral concert, where's the art display, where's the band exhibition. And this right here, these are real events for November already, and we would also overlay times where school is out for federal holidays, etc. But we feel like this will be that good one-stop shopping for all of you to take a look at events you may want to visit.
That's great.
And so there'll be a link to this on our homepage in the quick links section right near the COVID cases and some other important links. So that's where you would know to find it. So you can bookmark it on your phone. We would place it on the Trussville City Schools smartphone app. So we have it in a number of places, but it would all point back to the same calendar, if that makes sense.
So in my notes that I send the board every week, Sandra will put that link at the bottom of my notes. So it will be easily accessible. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, I send a summary of my week to the board every weekend. So we'll include the quick link in the notes that you get from my weekly task note.
That's no small task for y'all to all combine that into one calendar. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
I can imagine that's a big undertaking.
There will be an ebb and flow to it, and I think once we get into the rhythm, it will have a really neat process about it. So Mr. Salem, for example, sent me Barry Alfin's name. So I'm assuming you and Mr. Alfin have had a discussion about what types of events to put or to submit for Hewitt Trussville High School.
Correct.
Here on this. So
Because you don't want all
you don't want all of them. So we're not going to put, boys getting released for wrestling today at 1.
No, please, yeah.
But if there's a huge wrestling tournament, something like that may go on there. If there's a, like I said, choral concert or tonight's semifinals for girls flag football, stuff like that.
That's correct.
And we would try to mitigate anything like a teacher's dental appointment. Or something that might accidentally make its way onto the master calendar.
Well, that's exactly what I was, when I first introduced the whole liaison idea, that was exactly what I was hoping to be able to do, was to be able to pick go to those type events. And so maybe we can, as a board, we can sign up to it, make sure that we're all attending. Like, I would like to go to one event, at least one event at each school, maybe for sometime the rest of this year. And so I can go and pick and choose which one I want to. I don't know if we want to, something we want to have a sign-up sheet that we circulate amongst ourselves so that we can make sure we want certain events, or if we want to just take it upon ourselves to do it. But that's exactly what I had in mind when I suggested that whole liaison idea. That is 100% what I had in mind when I was talking about. Thank you. I don't know if you took that from from that idea. This is great. That's exactly what I was.
You're not letting this replace your liaison deal, are you?
Well, I think it's exactly what, that's the same thing as what I was wanting to do.
It's a
with the
great
liaison.
thing, but it's not the same thing.
Well, I mean, I guess when I first had the idea, I was thinking that we would take a school for a period of time. But the idea was to go to these type of events. So, I mean,
Would you like to go to more than one school?
I would, well, yeah, I mean, I think if it's that easily accessible, because we haven't had this in the past. And so it was gonna be easier for me to get that one school's calendar as opposed to all of them.
And timing is everything too. Timing is, if you wanted to
You're dropping your
go
liaison.
to something and you were not available, there's another choice for you on another night of the week. At another school.
I'm not necessarily dropping it. I think that this is new. We haven't had this before. Well, why don't we, I mean, my proposal would be maybe we do this for now, see how that works. If we want to pick up the liaison idea at the beginning of the school year next year, then we could, that way we have a full school year to work it. Would be my thought.
I would think this calendar would be changing too as things get added along the thing, and it gives us, I mean, like Kim, she's locked into 3 schools already just because your kids attend 3 schools. I'm not locked into any. My feeling about it was I didn't want to be locked in because I wanted to see what was going on at different schools, but I needed, a calendar for events that I could attend.
I mean, we can.
Yeah.
You can reply all when you're going, and then Dr. Ward and I were at the signing event at the high school this week, and then of course girls flag football is tonight, and I think we can reply all. If you want to let people know where you're going to be, you can reply to us and let us know.
I certainly don't think we as 5 people or more are going to be able to attend every single function
No,
in
no,
every
no,
school,
no,
and that was
right.
never the intention.
Right. No.
Because there's a lot that goes on just based on everyone's report, and
I think what
there's a lot going on.
was powerful about Kim's liaison deal was the routine of building relationship. This is good. I mean, I'm not, this is great. We should have this anyway. I mean, this is absolutely wonderful, but it does probably not meet the same burden of building a relationship with a group of parents in a school where you're building regular routine cadence. That's what I liked about her other idea so much. I mean, this absolutely is fantastic. I'm not
Yeah.
criticizing it. But the other one, a loud relationship we built with parents, they could feel heard, they could see it. You know, they could get there this way, it just won't be as consistent.
Well, I think that it's a building idea, you know, I mean, that was, my idea was in the clouds. And I think this is a way to, you know, not baby steps, but I mean, this is a step toward that.
We were running with your idea when I left the work session.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have this, so
How about, why don't we try this and see and assess it? Let's say by March, is it March when we have our retreat, or April? And then we can revisit the idea again. How about that?
I like that idea. I like that idea a lot.
So we'll be able to go into this document. If we think we're gonna attend something, you put your name in. Is that kind of, but this is a district wide kind of, isn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't picture that one, yeah. This is,
I didn't know how to.
you could go on into the App Store or Google Play, what type of device you have, and download the Google Calendar app. And just have that on your home screen, you click it and it'll, you could do a day view, a week, or a month.
Okay.
You don't have to sign into anything. This is totally public facing. That's why we're working closely with the principals, so they know the types of events we want on there for their campuses. But the only issue I would see is all 5 board members were consistently going to like one or all
Well, I
events.
think that,
Because
yeah.
some people would say the
Not
board
spreading it
connected
around.
business at an event.
Well, I guess for me, it's more that my fear is more the opposite. We all go to a bunch of events that, you know, to this particular event and then, or this particular school gets left out or doesn't get as much attention. And that was the whole idea of the HINA liaison, is that we're making sure that we are attending events at each thing. But I think, like what Sherry's saying, let's try it from now till the next meeting and see what kind of legs this has. If we can, even when we get Dr. Neal's email on Sundays, we could even all respond and say, well, I plan to go to this event at this school. this
Just
week.
among us.
Yeah, just
Yes.
amongst the 5 of us.
Okay.
And then that way we can
That
make
ensures
sure,
coverage at that point.
yes, make sure that something, you know, that things are getting covered.
And I'll remind you in the body of my text that I write in the email, remember to reply all if you're going to attend an event.
I think the ones that tend to get left out of the elementary school things, unless she was a kid in there. April, can you help me get all that stuff he's talking about?
Me too.
We'll still be getting track of the Huskies, correct?
Of course, I get 6 times.
They'll give us all athletic.
That's correct, yeah. All
Most of them
athletics
will
and
have
games
this-
will still be on Tuesdays and tracking that. Some of it will be replicated on here just as a reminder, but what Lance puts as a master look ahead, that's not changing, correct? You're right.
Well, okay, I know that we're gonna have access to this. Are teachers going to have access to this as well, or schools?
They'll have access to view, but not to populate events.
Mhm.
So it's just the designees of the principals. Ms. Abney, I think you named Erin McGuire. So she's our LTT communication pathway teacher. She runs the website, social media. So we mentioned Barry Alphen at the high school. So again, we'll get into that rhythm. We'll see how it goes. And I can actually see this helping communications as well. So if you guys are at certain events, snap a photo or a quick video, want to text it to me, then if I'm not there, then I can funnel it down our social platforms as well. So we can really get into a good rhythm.
Yeah, you can't be everywhere.
That's right. So
All right,
let
the
me
point being, again, are we creating more work for the principals at the school by
No, sir.
having these events highlighted, knowing that we may be showing up, and if they know that we're showing up, then the principal has to make sure that everybody on the faculty knows that they're going to have a board member present. Therefore, the custodians are going to have to make sure the building's even cleaner, making sure the teachers have everything distributed, everything set. In other words, I've been through this before, and I understand the concept of it, I have no problem with it, but I do not want to create more work for the principals and for the teachers. We throw that out for what it's worth, and I know that's old school, but again,
no.
and also, we don't want this to be about us. This is not about us.
That's correct.
Again, let's don't lose focus of why we're here. It's not about the 5 of us. It's what's going on in the school. We'd like to see it, but I don't want to create more problems and more work. They've got enough as is. We don't need it. If you've been reading all the articles in newspapers, on magazines now. Teachers are tired of being told, you've got to do this, you've got to do this, expect more. So let's don't create more work for everybody, okay? And so making sure the principals understand, well, if we do sign up for this, for goodness sake, don't stop everything and plan your day and have a presentation ready for us, or a guide ready for us, or have somebody take us to the building, all those kinds of things. I know that is. Don't do that. That's not the purpose of this, I hope, right?
That's
correct.
Or am I wrong?
Absolutely correct. That was never.
What Steve's saying, don't clean up on our.
If you don't, this is not more work for you, please. I know it's going to be. You know it, I know it. I know how that is.
I think the flip side.
Anyway,
you're
take
right,
that
Steve.
into consideration, board members.
Yes.
You're exactly right, but the flip side is they'll be building great advocates, relationships, and that'll be really cool. I mean, so. but
And
you're
I
right.
think our principals and teachers are ready, no matter if Dr. Neal is coming or someone from the state is coming, they are always ready and prepared. I don't think, I mean, if you stay ready, you're gonna be,
I do like it.
no, it is.
Well, I was under the understanding too, when they submitted, it wasn't every activity that goes on in school. It was what they thought that may be something that would be possible for us to be at.
And these are not primarily during the school day, correct?
I would think.
Most of them are after school type activities.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Sports and after school.
I think it's.
Look, the whole intent was that I wanted us to make sure that we were supportive of the schools and we were supportive and seeing and you know, when y'all are doing something that y'all want us to see, that you're showcasing, we want to be there. We want to know about it. So that was the whole point behind the whole idea.
Right.
From the start, so.
We're not looking to complicate anything. I definitely, I hear what you're saying, that the temperature of a building changes when a school board member walks in. But to your point, we would hope that our facilities are always clean, and everybody's always behaving correctly, and that you don't stumble upon something that you should not see. So.
This is not a dog and pony show for us, okay?
Tim, I am coming to the hospital
Don't
tomorrow though.
Do that. It's not.
I gotta bring some to the
I
hospital
don't
tomorrow.
think.
Clean it up.
Board members, is that the purpose of this?
No,
No,
it's not.
everybody's not.
No, I agree with you.
We'll give it a shot. We'll see how it works.
Okay,
We'll revisit this at the retreat.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This really is great.
Thank you all.
Totally great.
Okay, next on our agenda is a follow-up from our Pell Board training, which was our strategic plan. And so the first thing in your packet is a familiar document. It looks like what's hanging on the wall over to my right. But we've changed the strategic areas to match Cognia and the items that the board has talked about before. So the draft goals are not on the AASB letterhead. AASB has a letterhead with notes, and then in our goals, the first four are Cognia goals. And this is a draft. I've seen a couple of typos. It's not cleaned up quite yet. We'll roll this out in January 2022. The first four are culture of learning, engagement of learning, growth in learning, and leadership for learning. And those are the new Cognia goals that will be examined in the next accreditation cycle. So it's important that our strategic plan has goal domains that match the Cognia domains. So the lead of these, Dr. Poovey will take the culture of learning and speak to that in just a few minutes. Dr. Berry is at a conference, so she's not here tonight, so I'll speak in terms of what I know that she's planning for engaging learners and growth in learning. And then leadership for learning is mine and ours, school board. And then that's it for Cognia. And then the last two are two domains that we need, want, and have expressed interest in measuring: finance, facilities, and safety. And Mr. Kirkland will take the lead on that. And communications is Roman numeral 6, and Mr. Gaston will take the lead on that. So previously we had 6 domains. We now have 6 domains. They're just different in title. And we have a template for draft goals that we'll go over right now with the lead person expressing those draft goals. And then by January, we'll have specific objectives that are measurable and or basically in the form of a checklist to be able to measure how we're doing on our strategic plan. And they will also be archived for the next Cognia review in 4 years now. We have 1 year under our belt to develop this, and then they'll take a look in their next review. So under culture of learning, I'll turn it over to Dr. Poovey, and she can talk about how she revised Susan Salter's document based on what the board had to say under culture of learning.
So listening to the brainstorm at your work session, and Susan had taken pretty much exactly what you said. So we've just broadened that so that we can make a better goal out of it and choose those objectives wisely. So for example, looking at number 1, expand pace to extend social skills learning across physical and virtual environments. We know that Jason does a great job of sending things out that come on our laptops and but we also want to make sure we've looked at digital citizenship and characteristics within that to make sure that we're teaching our students that while we want them to be kind and respectful and have integrity publicly, those things also go on behind their screens. And they've been behind their screens a lot. So we want to make sure we expand pace to teach them how to use those kind terms and those personal characteristics when they're behind their screens as well. Number 2, expand mental health supports for students and employees. There's some surveys and things going on now, so we can look at what's out there to help our employees further. We are encountering more challenges with mental health for our students and just our world in general because of COVID and because of the differences in how we're communicating right now and how we've been communicating. So we're seeking some supports to put in our Family Resource Center as well as to help our students and our teachers. Create a Family Resource Center to support the mental health of Trussville City School stakeholders. We've purchased books. We're going to purchase more books. We're going to look at online supplies, different things we can put in that Family Resource Center that we all looked at when we went toward the new board, so that it's easily accessible to families both on our website and if they come into the Resource Center for support. Conducted a yearly engagement survey of employees, and I know that Mrs. Staff, Dr. Neal's leading us in that endeavor, and we'll continue to hone that as the years go by, and the questions need to reflect what is going on in our current community so we make sure we can address and get insight from the faculty and staff on that. And finally, build a robust network of support for Trussville City Schools from across the city of Trussville. Some of the opportunities there are to expand neighborhood bridges and make sure we have connections within our community of people that can support that. Looking at doing some virtual community support from our school system out into our community so we can get to know it better. But just building those connections that we need, that we can draw on, that will provide our students opportunities to new careers, opportunities to new connections that we can help them find the information they need. So that's what we're looking at in culture of learning. Have any questions or thoughts you'd like me to know?
So I have a question on the digital citizenship. I mean, are the children at whatever age, whether it's middle school or elementary, are they actually, is there a course or is there a part of their program they go through where is it every year? Just how does that work?
As a part of every school's technology plan, that is one of the goals that they all choose. I mean, so with our K through 5, they go through weekly classes in our STEM classes, and those lessons are taught within those classes. At middle school and high school, they're shared out. The lead technology teachers and the rest of that technology team decides which lesson plans for each grade level, and then they share them out. I believe middle school did them during last week, one of those. And so they share them out to the whole school, and they do them during Husky time and other times there. So they get several lessons every year.
Okay.
Our rhythm app that we recently purchased has some digital pieces that can fit into that as well. So we have some new resources we can combine and put out within Schoology and some other things for our children to be exposed to that.
Well, I'm really glad to see us looking at the engagement survey. I think that's a best practice a lot of places, and it's going to be healthy for us. I might suggest whoever's working on that, you can go Google Gallup does something called the Q12, which they've got several books out of this, but it is probably the lead model for how to engage how to measure employee engagement. And I think that if we get, I don't know if we have to pay Gallup for that, if there's local, I do know there's some local Gallup consultants, probably less expensive than Gallup, or some of it may not be trademarked, but there's some powerful ideas of questions there that we can use that can lead to some areas for us to actually be able to measure engagement with people. And I think that what Steve said earlier is really true. I think that teachers have had an interesting couple of years, and administrators and leaders have, and every employee in the school has. And it's a great time to see if we're on track and, you know, what we can do to make their lives better and, you know, just get feedback. And look, when y'all do this, I'm fine if you ask what they think about the board. I know feedback's not always popular, but, you know, it makes us better. So we'll have a board section. I don't know about the rest of you, but does the board understand or support what we do or whatever? I mean, it's healthy for us.
You touched on also the Family Resource Center, so, which I'm thrilled, but how does that play out? Like, say you need something in there, is there a touch person? I mean, a person that will be manning that, or counselors, or they just go in there and find the information they need? I don't know how that.
Well, Beth Cargill is our connection, main connection, so they can make the connection with her, but Kathy Bergen is down the hallway that way, so we're gonna have to figure that out and work that
Okay.
out. And right now, we're really trying to pull the resources so we know it's worth somebody taking time to come in and look at, or getting them what they need. But that's one of the pieces in this, you know, building section, where those objectives that will be to build that and make it open and successful and welcoming to families.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm excited about that part.
We had had some previous conversations before Dr. Peavy came on board. And if you can imagine a family resource center being available for people who can make an appointment and come in and speak to our social worker, that could happen. But they could walk in crisis. And if they do, and they don't have an appointment and our social worker is not in her office, then we can make a phone call. Kathy Bergen will be seated there at that window. There's a window in the new central office and a special doorway for the Family Resource Center, where you might just simply come in and register your child. But you also might come in and you might need some sort of mental health counseling or some sort of connection. So a phone call can be made to quickly counsel by phone, or an appointment can be made if they can come back at another time. But it will be hopefully immediate service for anyone who needs resources. And if we can't help them with our counselors, you mentioned our own counselors, that could happen. Our social worker has a complete list of resources in the community that might be able to help that person who needs help. And there won't be any stigma about walking in that door. This is a valuable piece of information from parent advisory back when we were able to have our parent advisory meetings. They thought it was a great idea, but they didn't want a single doorway where someone might see them walking in for help. This is going to be a very common doorway where you'll register children, pay fees, ask for help. It's very, very confidential. So it's on the back side of central office, facing central office, the back right side on the first floor. It will have its own entrance.
How do you foresee this resource center? For instance, there are churches in our community, a lot of churches in our community have these kinds of situations where someone will, for whatever reason, break down, their vehicle breaks down, and they come to the church, to the pastor, they have a discretionary fund that they sometimes can help. How will we handle something? Would we be facing with something like that? Just someone, I don't think they would necessarily come to our building per se. I think it would be more if they were registering a student, if they had a student. So I don't know if that would necessarily work together or not.
So right now, through Neighborhood Bridges, we get information from our counselors, from other members in the school, and they send that through myself or through Ms. Cardwell. And we have gift cards that we keep so many of that we can help support if they need immediate food needs, whatever immediate clothing. We can get them the gift card, or we can take those and get what they need and get it delivered to them. So Neighborhood Bridges has been a great resource for us for that. And that's how we service that right now. And I think we'll continue in that method, but we are working with Mr. Bannister to get some more people within the community trained to be that support system as well, so they can encourage families that it's okay to ask. And I think right now They don't always know it's okay to ask. There's an embarrassment to that, but we're gonna make sure we can do that discreetly and confidentially, but make them very welcome.
Would we coordinate with one of the ministers in our area?
We coordinate with several of them right now. We have 2 churches that have just done Thanksgiving, and we're delivering that next week, and we turned in several names for Christmas supports on those Tuesdays, so yesterday. So we'll continue to work through those resources with them.
Is this something that we could, that we would put it like at the bottom of the link each week, when we have all those other links to counseling or to, we've got 4 or 5 links at the bottom every like, wouldn't that be something that we could add to the link next year of
Family resource.
Family Resource Center, and here's the link to the website, or to the, provide the phone number or something, just so that parents get that every week to where.
I think when we open up, we definitely need,
Sorry.
I mean, because we haven't really had that before. I mean, we've had Beth, but we definitely need something that introduces it and gives exactly what it is, and, you know,
The spotlight on it in the link or
spotlight,
something like
thank
that.
you. Yeah, something like that.
And then from then on, just have it at the bottom where parents can see that and have easy access to it, and know what it is.
And that's fluid, that will change. You know, suddenly there was a COVID hotline. You know, that will hopefully go away. And then we will have different types of resources according to the current trends and needs.
Well, we
Yes.
have the one about bullying, we have the one about special needs and things like that at the bottom of the link. So I'm remembering correctly what all's on there. Jason can probably tell me better.
We're going to continue to build that and bring you some objectives and make it successful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Figgy. I'm super excited about that particular domain. Next one is engagement in learning, and Dr. Berry, I have a few notes from her. She is at a conference, and so she asked me to convey that the engagement of learning certainly starts early in elementary school, and we have lots of opportunities for students to discover in elementary school. There's a leader in need, there are leadership opportunities, there are outstanding music and art and counseling and library opportunities for students to have their first blush at discovering what they really love and what they really want to be engaged in doing. And then our 6th through 8 program is full of clubs and exploratories. That's one step beyond discovery. We move from discovery to exploratory in the middle school. And that's a lot of fun because you can rule out some things you really don't like. Once you try them one time, you can say, I'm really not strong in that area. And then I am strong in other areas. And then by the time they get to high school, it's time for them to have narrowed it to a couple of career choices to understand if they're going to college, not going to college, if they've chosen a career that does require a 4-year program, a 6 or an 8-year program, or if they can go right into something after high school. So we will continue to provide those career exploration opportunities. And we do want to build some partnerships with local businesses to give students a chance to do internships and co-ops in local businesses if they believe they're interested in those particular areas. So we'll have co-ops, sports clubs, and organizations for engagement of learning. And then the growth in learning certainly goes hand in hand with that. It's not totally separate. First, they're engaged in the learning, and then the growth is in supporting what they believe they love and supporting their success in college and career. And inside of that, we can expand dual enrollment. All of our co-op programs start that middle college program, which is something that the board mentioned in our strategic planning session. And then to continue to ensure that teachers have the resources they need to feel supported in helping their own students grow in unique and individual ways. It's not a one-size-fits-all. And so we're preparing students for jobs that don't exist yet. And so we have many opportunities for robotics and in technology and in our other programs to support their growth and learning. And then the last one that I have is leadership for learning. And the board had mentioned these 3 bullets, and that was a summer school expansion or year-round for students who need year-round education. And that's really expanding our summer learning and including elementary, including middle school. And we've always had our high school summer program, but certainly expanding that. And then keeping our virtual learning at our fingertips. You never know when you'll need that again. And we have had major lessons learned during the pandemic about technology. And thank you again to April and your team for the Chromebooks. We now have one-on-one Chromebooks. We now have all the platforms we need for virtual learning. And just in a conversation the other day, we talked about putting in a couple of virtual learning days just to keep everybody adept at virtual learning and having a good solid calendar for the students and the teachers and the families. That is announced ahead of time. We'll revisit that in March. And then expand the Future Teachers of America program to grow our system's own teachers. And that is so incredibly important because if you read national news, there is in some places a mass exodus of teachers from the field. And they're young teachers, they're not mid-career yet, but they're leaving and they're going into something else, not necessarily to a different school system, but they're leaving the field for a variety of reasons. So I think it's important to give incentives to go into teaching, to be a self-perpetuating institution, and to grow our own, and maybe give a signing bonus to our Hewitt Trussville High School teachers who come back to us in 4 years to teach here. And give them that information before they leave high school. So the goal is always to come back home. But we're going to have to make some kind of shift to fill certain positions, especially math, science, special education, and sometimes foreign language, sometimes. The top three are math, science, and special ed. So we will have objectives that are measurable by the time the new year begins. And then we have two more areas in our strategic plan. Before I turn it over to Mr. Kirkland, I'll ask if there are any questions or comments on the first four. Those are the Cognia goals.
So this may sound crazy. We have these academies for culinary, engineering, electrical, an academy for aspiring teachers. And I mean, if possible, why don't we figure out some dual enrollment stuff where we're grabbing these kids in high school, getting so fired up about being teachers. I mean, I love these dual enrollment courses where, you know, you get one or two things for a college. It may not be possible, but if there ought to be one thing we're excellent at teaching, it ought to be how to be a teacher. And give them a jump start in college. I mean, I can't think of a better way to really give them a little rocket fuel to get them out of here and get them where they need to go and come back. So I like that. But I mean, how cool could it be to have really qualified seniors down helping younger kids learn to read as part of the academy?
Teaching a lesson plan.
Yeah.
I mean, I know
I mean,
what
to
you're
your
saying.
point,
Yeah.
figure out if you like it now.
Right.
I mean, I don't know, just
I
spitballing, but let's roll.
No, I love that idea
We got
because there is a Future Teachers Academy. If you take a look at academies in general, under career and technical education, there are 16 of them. And we don't have all 16 in Trussville City Schools, and one reason is because of space. So if you can imagine a Future Teachers Academy, and one way to do that is to have a preschool program housed at the education corridor, staffed by future teachers.
Get a little missionary there, you might want to slow down.
Okay, that's what it should look like. And then if you have someone who really loves to go into the toddler program or the infant program, then you broaden that age group, but you actually have a registered and certified preschool program or daycare on a high school campus. And that happens in other places, and it works very well. And the parents love it. And the high school seniors, juniors and seniors are working with a certified teacher to learn how to do those kinds of things. And then the next expansion is to go out into classrooms.
Well, and they're figuring out they love it before they get to college, so that's important. I would think we have a really high success rate of kids that love the academy, probably follow that to a career.
Sure.
So
Are those, when you've seen that in other districts where they have that, is it primarily teachers and employees of the school systems, children who are attending those?
they want it first.
I figured they probably would.
They
That'd be
do.
fantastic.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Because we have our, we have a lot of, let's imagine an education corridor in a large enough space to be certified and qualified for X number of preschool students. The teachers at the high school would want that first, because it's right there on, hopefully in the general area of the campus, because there's no transportation.
Sure,
for them.
but it still isn't, you know, Magnolia would be the furthest, but I mean, it'd be very close to Payne and really close to Kyle too. And there's, sure,
Right.
pretty much everybody but Magnolia would be within a mile and a half.
So if you take a look at the federal CTE programs, if you Google it, they're called the CTE clusters. And underneath each cluster, for example, architecture, arts and architecture has the electrical academy under it and a construction academy under it. And I would love to have that complete CTE cluster, because also, if we're going to be visionary for a moment, we work with Habitat for Humanity, and our students build the home. We need about $150 to $190,000 in seed money, and just for 1 year. And then the students learn masonry, plumbing, carpentry, roofing, all of the above, the design. They build a house. The house is auctioned with a starting bid at the amount they need to build next year's house. And we go to another place in the community with donated land to us. We build a house there, auction it, build it. So it doesn't cost $190,000 every year. That's seed money. But we have a complete academy. And it's not just electrical, it's everything that has to do with building a home. So let's go to another academy, Future Teachers. And you have the preschool, and then you have elementary, and those kinds of components underneath that particular cluster. And another one is justice system and law enforcement. That's the most popular one that we don't have, and that's your future police officers, which there's a shortage of those. That's an idea for the corridor. And then along with that comes a JROTC program, which is super popular. And those kids that don't play sports and don't have any other uniform suddenly have the Air Force or the Army uniform. But we need a barrack. We need a lot of space for that. It's a dream, it's a vision, but it would be great for our community.
Starts with vision. Speaking of vision and space, Roman numeral number 5, more buildings, right?
That's a perfect segue. Thank you, Professor Sims.
Well, to ground us.
Everything has to be laying in the plane.
Don't bring us back down. That was kind of
Vision was fine though, Jim. Come on.
I saw the
Ability to,
seeing the deep weave in
grow.
I mean, barracks is probably the most affordable thing, she said.
Actually, let's do it. Obviously, growth, population growth in the city is a huge thing that we will be tracking in the next couple of months as some subdivisions get approved and started. We just got to plan on how that's going to impact us. So that will take us over several years. And then obviously we got to figure out how we're going to fund our growth. Maintaining stability in our revenues will be crucial throughout the next couple of years. And, looking for ways to partner with the city again to do some bond issues for building. We're looking at working with the state in leveraging some of our capital outlay money to possibly add a ceiling to the high school because we're past. So, these things don't happen overnight, so it's going to take a lot of planning and conversations.
So Jim, I'm glad you do what you do because it would overwhelm me, but with all this growth, we talk about the cost of it. Is there any relatively accurate way to also project what our future revenue growth will be? Because growth does bring additional revenues for us. I mean, is there any way to model that as well as we begin to look out 5 and 6 years?
Sure.
Jim, I will add, the developer has an economic impact model survey that
So
it.
we could equate that to revenue.
Right, he hasn't, and I haven't seen it, he has that for us, and he said, I'm ready to share that with you. You know,
I think that'll make it still better.
Yeah.
'Cause it's gonna be, I mean, it's gonna take the air out of the room when you start looking at the real numbers. And
Yeah.
I mean, and I know it's just a shot in the dark, but how accurate would you feel about it? I mean, his numbers too. I mean, I still want to take their numbers at face value, but I don't know, it's just a question. I don't know if it's impossible.
Well, obviously you're looking at what they are projecting these homes are gonna cost. Until they sell, you don't know. So purely working off those projections, we can come pretty close.
Okay, so the property tax thing is sales tax is less, but still. Okay. And we always spitball Seawing, but one day at a time, we talked about another freestanding building that we might move academies to. And the more we talk about things like this, I mean, is that more economical, or we look at that as an option as well? Because if we moved academies to a freestanding building, then we have more room in the current building, but maybe that's not the piece, but it seemed like we had that idea years ago. And,
We would move everything but culinary.
well, yeah.
Completely culinary.
Is that cash enough rooms? I don't know. And is that even less expensive than building this quote Seawing? I mean, those are things I guess we talk
Well,
about.
obviously, it depends on where you put it. Sealing, the land is there. It's prepared, it's prepped, building's prepped to hold it. Anywhere else you go, you gotta develop the land in order to put it. So, there's just a lot of variables, but, we're gonna need one to mention.
I like your question, though. The Seawing would house biomedical, fire science, and electrical academies. And those spaces would be built for those academies. Right now, they're just in classrooms. And they need a little more than that. So yes, we would pull those, that would be the academy wing, so to speak, at least a couple floors. It's a 4-floor wing, so at least 2 of those would. And then Mr. Salem would have rooms freed up from those existing. Okay. Yes, we did talk about
Sometime
that.
and built another building, they were on our way to middle college as well.
Right.
So,
So you're right, we did talk about that.
On another tangent, as far as the finances are concerned, with President Biden signing the infrastructure bill. I know this is a long time off, but is that going to have, or could that have any effect on school buses? I understand that there's sections in there about going to electric battery operated school buses down the road. Do you foresee that having an impact anytime soon?
Probably not.
Probably not here.
But the way a lot of federal initiatives and programs go, we would be one of the last to take advantage of that. I mean, to be available to take advantage of it, because they would be targeted to other areas.
I just saw that and I just wondered about any thoughts on that.
that's the school bus.
Anything else on finance, facilities, and safety? Communications is our goal number 6.
Chief storyteller.
That's where we're going to begin. I'll go through these pretty quickly. So yeah, what we would weave into the strategic plan with the cognitive goals is chief among those being our own chief storyteller. So that involves strengthening, in my view, our school home communication via rapid notification, with our Blackboard logins, SMORE websites, social media platforms. I think our principals are doing an excellent job of leveraging those tools and those communication goodies that we already have in our repository. So there's that. We need to probably formalize what really is an existing key communicator network. So that would be people from the city, people from the real estate realm, key members in the community that we could bring in once a month and make sure they understand that they're hearing it first. So there's that. We don't want to leave out mainstream media. Again, we tell it first, but we also need to remember that they are could be a partner in this as well in terms of echoing what we share. So just last week, I publicized 2 of the new tech team members, Matt Kinsley and Rachel Brockman. And the Cabo Sun noticed that on our social media platforms and reached out and asked if they could use that content that I had written and the photos that I had taken. I said, of course, positive source to showcase Matt and Rachel. So that was really good. Position TCS as the district of school choice. This gets back to the conversations that were had just a second ago about capitalizing on our current growth. I see that as a very positive way of telling our story and positioning the school system as a district of choice. We know that when people move to Metro Birmingham, they have 13 school systems just in Jefferson County from which to choose. And that doesn't include the 3 in Shelby County, Pelham, Alabaster, and Shelby County schools. So, of course, we've got Pell City, St. Clair right next door. So we want to make sure we position ourselves as a school district of choice and tell people we're growing. Here's why we're growing. Here's, share some of the secret sauce, in other words. A lot of that's the great infrastructure of the city, the leadership of the mayor and the council. And of course, I think a part of that is the schools, right? A lot of people move here for the schools and what the principals are doing, what the teachers are doing, the magic that's happening out in the classrooms. Our parents are overall very, very happy with the service, the educational delivery we get here at Trussville City Schools. Thirdly, amplifying the overall value and caliber of TCS through expert brand management. This ties in with telling our story. We really can't tell that story until we figure out who we are. We're having some of those discussions right now in terms of trying to tie some of those pieces together and make sure those moving parts all come together in one, what we would say in my industry, a brand guide. So we make sure that we have some standards, brand standards, best practices, and that we are legally protected when it comes to owning some of our marks. Not to mention, another very important piece of that is what I talked about at our last school board meeting, which is all of these stores across Trussville and Grayson Valley, Clay and Pinson that are selling TCS merchandise. And a lot of them explicitly say on the label, a portion of these proceeds go back to Hewitt Trussville High School. And I've not been able to uncover that through my own forensic accounting. So I don't know where that money's going. It's phantom money. So we're going to get to the bottom of that. And lastly, create, enhance, and or reinforce positive sentiments surrounding Trussville City Schools. This is just continuing to amplify all the positives in the district. Again, the expert teaching and learning that takes place every school day. We want to remind people we've got some of the lowest student-teacher ratios in the state. I think parents really love that. That's one thing we need to tout. The ACAP score, some of the successes we've had with some of our subgroups in particular, telling that story, making sure people understand we're making progress and closing the gap in some of those key areas. So those are some things that I think scaffold part of the communication process of the strategic plan. Any questions?
Yeah, I know we're close to time. How do we ever get to the point where you can protect that brand actually collect? Or the reinforcement? Didn't Bill Battle used to go to Tennessee, start a law firm that basically collected brand money for colleges? Do y'all remember that? And he built a major organization out of it where he reinforced all college logos. Is there anything like that, or is there even enough money on the table here to make that justifiable? Because that's twice we've heard there's revenue that we're maybe not getting. How do we ever enforce it?
We now have a contract with Collegiate Licensing Company, the K-12 division. That was done earlier this year. So they are a partner now. So Jason and I have actually worked over the last couple of months going to these places, looking at merchandise, scanning barcodes, sending pictures in so that the K-12 licensing group can contact these manufacturers and make sure that they're on board with our plan. So we've made tremendous progress with it over the last couple of months. Of course, there's still more out there, but I feel like we're on the right track with it.
You and Jace are like the police out there.
And it was kind of, sloop around with,
So if you see you two in there photographic garments and stuff, we know what's going on.
That's good.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the teacher survey. We're so excited and so looking forward to the results. And I think that we've talked about how important it is to learn from our teachers. And the opening part of the survey just mentions that I thank them, I care about them, and I want to learn from them as we set the course for our continuous improvement plan. So if you take a look at the 11 questions, some of them are just a rating scale about difficulties about returning to work in August and how that compares to October, and what the most difficult part of their job has been this year. And then there are a couple of questions for the administration, and that does include the board. What have you appreciated most in terms of support from the administration, and what can the administration do more to support you? And then as we take a look at articles nationwide, there is an element of exhaustion in the teacher ranks. So I've asked the teachers to please rate how re-energized or how exhausted they are at this time on a scale of 1 to 10. And then we go into student mental health. What might the barriers to student learning be? What behaviors that are new or different or negatively impacting teaching and learning? What do those behaviors look like? And how can we use our PACE program to expand, to alleviate the negative and accentuate the positive among the students and the parents, as well as peers and colleagues? Number 10, what are their positive practices or takeaways they've had from the pandemic, and describe an unexpected experience that impacted them during the pandemic? And then the bonus question is 12. Do you have a shout out or a thank you related to the pandemic that you would like to share? So Jason will be sending out this survey to everyone. This includes faculty and staff, bus drivers and all, and we'll share those results at the next meeting.
Was there a place in there for them to suggest? I mean, we went through it fast. Like,
And your back is to me. What did you say?
was there a place then for suggestions, like to what Steve was mentioning earlier, some of the things that are stressing them? Like, I'd like to hear their ideas they have and where we can help them out.
Absolutely.
And is that in there and I just missed it? Or
What can the administration do to support you more at this time?
probably it's a-
What do you consider
I'm
to be
open
the
to
most
edits
difficult
though.
part of your
If you
job?
have an edit.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's difficult. How can we make it better?
Mhm.
That's what I want. And the verbatims are going to be powerful if there's room for them to do that.
So what number are you looking at? Do you have an edit for a particular numbered question?
No, I didn't see the one about, like, I just would like to hear their heart, because I mean, I'd love to study this more if we sit it out. But
Okay.
this-
You want to
I mean,
give me some feedback in the next?
yeah, I'd love to, I don't know who did, it's really, really good, but I mean, I'd love to go look at that Gallup Q12 I mentioned earlier. Y'all moved really fast on this, I'm grateful for that, but that Q12 might, I'm trying to remember, like, it gets into, someone cares about me. There are different levels of engagement, but they're powerful questions.
Well, you're right, and we really focused on what they've been through, and we would like to do another one, another survey. And this one is mostly about COVID, exhaustion, student mental health, barriers to learning, and the questions will change as the pandemic wanes and goes away. So we'll send another survey as well. If you have a burning question, we can add it, and if you have a collection of questions for the next round, we're certainly open to that as well.
Are these anonymous or are they?
They are, it's voluntary. So if a teacher says, I don't have time, I don't want to do that stupid survey, well, they don't have to. It is anonymous, it is voluntary. Yes.
So it's in question 5, then what can the administration do to support you more at this time? Or, okay, I mean, I didn't think about this, writing something like that, but what additional ideas do you have to make student education better or something like that? I just want to make sure I'd love to hear them just, stream of conscious thought there. Are they capped to how many letters they can put in those boxes, or is that just gonna be open for verbatims?
I think we didn't want 4 pages. Did you cap the characters, Mr. Gaston?
Short answer is no. I'm looking into it. So with SurveyMonkey, which is this platform we would use to administer this as of now, I can't find a way to cap characters. If we use Google Forms, we can cap characters, but it gives often, it doesn't seem as anonymous because we have .org, and so people might think there'd be a way for us to drill down to their Google account. That makes sense. So I will look into it to make sure that nobody writes a dissertation.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest we do cap it, but maybe it's just as simple as keep your answers short. I mean, because you're right, we're just gonna gather the data. If they're pages, it's hard to summarize the verbatims. But
That's right.
my experience with the verbatims are usually short and bullet. But this, and there will be assured anonymous, right? I mean, that's what we're saying SurveyMonkey has. I'm not there with it. I think it's a powerful tool. I appreciate y'all doing it.
I wrote down, what additional ideas do you have to improve education? Is that what you said?
What was it, 5?
I was,
I mean,
well, I
I
was
don't
gonna
want
leave it
to lay it here. I
alone
know we
and
have
just
things to go.
add. I was
What can the
gonna-
administration do to support you more at this time? How can we help your education process? We'll free you up, or, I mean, don't we just keep hearing there's just a lot going on, to your point, you know, I mean, it feels burdensome, and, you know, it's just basically getting the voice of our frontline employees' thoughts. But I'm sure we already know that, but I like that. It's just a good practice. I mean, we're in the right place to do this. You measure this stuff, you sit down next year, you look at it, you act on the things they suggest. Everybody should feel better. It's a tough world. We appreciate what y'all do. This is your
And as
voice.
time goes on and you collect some questions for round 2, we'd like to answer those. Okay, we have changed substitute teacher agencies, and it's so far so good. Mr. Kirkland's here for an update. I'm ready, so.
One positive thing, the transition went very well. A lot of positive feedback from both the teachers who are using it as well as the substitutes. I think probably the biggest part of that is that's what they're familiar with, because that's what we used prior to our last service provider. Everything as far as November 8th, it just kicked off with very few pickups at all. I'm sure there were some, they didn't make it to me. I had several subs ask me to share their appreciation for agreeing to increase their daily rates. They were very appreciative for y'all doing that for them. The negative side of it is, like we mentioned before, we're still running in the 70% fill rate, but I'm seeing across our CFO distribution list, that's pretty much statewide. It's just, nobody just wants to work. And, it's affecting teachers, bus drivers, lunchroom ladies, custodians, across the board, every position. We're just struggling to find the subs. The schools are being creative as they can to handle this shortage. Fortunately, it is what it is. But the transition will be very.
Thank you, Mr. Kirkland. Last but not least is Mr. Ferris on capital projects. Thank you for being here.
I'll start with the new central office. They set the AC units on the roof Friday. The windows are going in. They're trying to plug up the envelope of the building so they can get the power on, get the air on, get climate control in there. The roof's almost complete. They started putting drop ceiling grid in on the first floor this week. Casework started going in, cabinets. We have an above ceiling inspection Thursday with the state inspector for the hard ceiling outside of the elevator, so they can get that sheet dropped up and move forward on that. Everything there's going good. The tennis courts, There's stuff going on there in the ground, it's not a lot to see, we're in the process of pouring retaining walls, I poured footing yesterday to the big wall, they poured a small wall behind the buses. They're supposed to be pouring the big retaining wall by the ditch Friday. They poured one bleacher pad on the school side. The block work in the building's almost done for the bathrooms and the office, and they're working on the drain pipe. Also, the tennis court lights you have in the agenda and the change order number 6 for the labor to install those lights. Any questions about one right on that?
Thank you.
So, wait.
That concludes our work session. Do you want to roll back to the
Yeah,
board
no,
meeting?
just roll right in, okay, so. Yeah, all right.
Right, you do.
We call this meeting to order, if everyone would please stand for.
We thank you for the opportunity to come together. And as we enter into this Thanksgiving season, we have so much to be grateful for. And we just want to take time to reflect for the goodness that we have in this organization, this opportunity, and just how grateful we are for it. We pray that you help us to be good stewards of this business. And we just thank you for the opportunity to lead. We pray blessings upon our teachers and employees and administration, upon every student. This just be the most special holiday ever. We thank you that it seems that things are continuing to get well in this disease, God, and we just ask that we learn from it and that we're willing to do your service. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sure. Kathy Brown. Here. Steve Ward.
Here.
Mark Sims.
Here.
Kim DeShazo. Here. Sherry Hall. Here.
Let's say hi to our school board attorneys, and thank you for being with us. I don't think we have any visitors. We rolled right into the board meeting, so thank you to everyone for being here, so. Turn over.
It's not the agenda.
Yes, that was me. Okay, now it's time to adopt our agenda. I have a motion to adopt our agenda.
I would like to.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Now we have our city council liaison, Ms. Lisa Bright. Bring us a message from the city council.
Pardon my jeans, but I got a flag football game to go to. I'll just dress appropriately. We had a really good meeting last Tuesday, city council, where we asked our National Merit Scholar finalists to come in, and we declared the day as Madeline Mann, Juliana Everhart, and Judson Upchurch as their day for the city. So they came, the parents came, it was really a special time. So we love being able to bring them in and celebrating them and all their accomplishments. We also just annexed in the Glendale Farms property. So it came in as it was zoned for Jefferson County. So it's a part of Trussville, but it's still considered agricultural and industrial zone. So that process of rezoning will take place later on as it is requested. So I don't have a date on that yet. We do have our Christmas tree lighting, which will be November 28th at 4:30 to 6. If you did not get to come last year, the First Baptist really stepped it up and did a platform for us and great sound system. It was really a fun night. Bring the kids out. Santa Claus will be there. All kinds of things that's just real family oriented. Someone had hot chocolate, so it's just a fun night to come. And the Christmas parade is December the 11th at 3 o'clock. So if anyone is doing a float, you can do all that through the Chamber of Commerce. That's all I have. If y'all have anything for me. Okay. Thank you.
Lisa.
Under consent agenda, I recommend the board approve items A through L as listed.
Okay, board, we have seen the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve items A through L as listed?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right.
In personnel, I recommend the board approve my recommendations for changes in personnel contracts, extra services, and supplements as listed.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve superintendent's recommendations regarding changes in personnel, contracts, extra services, and supplements?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. We do not have any delegations. Our next board meeting is on Monday, December 13th at 5 o'clock. So a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion.
All in favor, please stand. Go, Huskies.